welcome back to 26 North Halstead once again for another great show. I'm your host, George Blaze. Today we're going to talk about getting organized. The room that you're sitting in right now, is everything where it should be, or do you have a couple of knickknacks and things that don't belong there, or do you have piles and piles of things all around you where you can't even see my face? Well, scoot them to the side. We're going to take a half hour and talk a little bit about getting organized. Joining us now is Amy Traeger, also a professional organizer. Amy, we've been talking a little bit about just things going around in the office. When we start talking about in the home, it gets a little more complex. I think there's more spaces to pile stuff into, and no one isn't going to come by and look inside your living room. Right. This is a particular area that's problematic for a lot of people as far as organizing is concerned.
It certainly can be, simply because, like you mentioned, there isn't anybody there checking in on you. No one's holding you accountable to wash your dishes every day or make sure that your mail isn't stacking up on top of your coffee table every month and you can't even see the coffee table anymore. So it's a little more difficult to kind of motivate yourself when you're at home, when you're supposed to be relaxing.
The first step, of course, is saying, I need to get organized. You have to get to that point.
Definitely.
What's the next step when we're talking about your household?
Well, after you've made the decision that this is causing a problem for one reason or another, and you want to do something about it, the next thing to do would then figure out what's the best way for you to go about getting organized. Some people are very capable and knowledgeable enough about their self, their space, that they can completely remake or create a system for whatever the problem is in the home, whether it's mail or clothes. Some people need a professional to come in and kind of guide them through that process. And there are a variety of types of organizers out there depending on what your needs might be.
Now, do you have to approach it, from every aspect of it, like time management on down to the dishes? Can you just address certain aspects of it?
Sometimes people need everything addressed. It will depend on the individual or the family. But others simply need someone to come in and help them with one specific area of the home. Maybe they just have a problem with mail. Maybe they just have a problem in the kitchen. So sometimes it's one concentrated area that needs some guidance. Other times it is a matter of going from area to area in the entire home, breaking things down into doable projects, then looking through everything as a whole.
Looking at, a client comes in and you kind of assess their situation, look what's going on, particularly in many cases, there may be certain aspects of the house. The house could be immaculate, kitchen and everything, and then you go to the garage and there's a serious issue, or everything looks fine and then there's this one room in the basement that's seriously got issues. Tell me a little bit about that part of it.
Well, when I'm working with clients, I like to definitely stress the fact that I'm not there to judge them or what may or may not be working in their space, as well as it being confidential, because you really don't know what's going on behind closed doors. It could be, like you mentioned, one specific room, like a garage, that others don't really go in that often. It could be something like cabinets or a closet where you can close them away and people don't see it, so otherwise things look to be fairly normal and functional. So when something like that happens, you really have to start to look at why that's occurring.
Does that kind of give you, set off a bell or a red flag in your mind about a different kind of situation when you do see that everything appears to be fine, but then behind the veneer, things are disorganized? Is there something different going on there with the client?
There can be. It's definitely a different situation than somebody whose clutter is completely visible and they seemingly have no problem with it being visible, than with a client who wants it all shut away, wants it to look nice on the outside, but really underneath everything, they're still quite disorganized.
What doesn't hurt to start early? Especially if you have children, young children, start teaching them early on that things go in a proper place.
Absolutely. There are quite a few adults out there that are disorganized because they were never taught those skills, either growing up or through adolescence, or because they never saw them modeled in their own homes or school or anything like that. So if somebody's not showing you how to do it, it's a learned skill like anything else that a school student or a high school student would learn, then chances are they're not going to know how to create these workable systems when they're older.
And Amy, actually, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about when disorganization are symptomatic of bigger underlying problems, particularly psychological problems. We'll be right back. This is your city, Chicago. But what's going on in your neighborhood? Do you have a topic you'd like to see discussed on our program? If you do, send us an email at 26nhalstead@wciu.com, or you can mail us at 26 North Halstead Show, 26 North Halstead Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60661. We're here for you, Chicago. Welcome back to 26 North Halstead, talking all about getting organized. Molly Bourne from Simplicity Works Organizing, if I can get it out right. My mouth is unorganized. And Amy Traeger. Amy, we're going through kind of your portfolio. You gave us some examples of some of the clients. And in this first still here that we're looking at, it's a garage. And this is one of the problem areas. I've had this issue. I remember my father, his garage was kind of a mess. Certain things were put away, but it was a big pile of stuff. When you go into a garage, what goes through your mind? I mean, this is outside of the house. It's kind of out.
Right. The first question I always ask is, when was the last time a car was in here? Sometimes people can wedge one car in and kind of build this cradle of stuff around it. Other times they say, oh, I've never had a car in here. So that gives me an idea of how it's actually functioning. Is it functioning as a garage? From there, I ask them what they want to be storing out there. Is this a place for yard tools and outdoor toys, or is this an extension of the kitchen pantry? So we need to figure out what the end goal is for that space. And from there, take a look at what's actually in that space and how much of there.
That's a good question. Is this a garage? Do you want a car in here?
Exactly,
That's kind of, then
yeah.
you know you have a place to start. Now, in our second example here, this is moving more into an area where I'm looking at this picture and saying that, okay, there's something a little more serious going on here.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes clutter can become such an issue that it hinders daily functioning. So you're not able to do the things on a daily basis that most people can do without thinking twice about it. Finding clean plates to eat off of, wearing clean clothes, possibly even showering on a daily basis. If there's so much clutter in your way that you're not able to do some daily functioning, then you're looking at a hoarding situation of some kind.
And I mean, how do you approach that? I mean, as a professional organizer, because I mean, we're delving into an area where there are problems that perhaps you may not be able to fix for the person.
Absolutely. And the first thing to do when working with somebody or addressing somebody in that situation is to explain that to them. That I'm an organizer, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a junk removal service, and to tell them what I can help them with, and then to give them resources so that some of those other issues can also be addressed.
All have the capacity to let things get out of hand from time to time, but chronic disorganization, this is a sign, and you should think about this very seriously.
Absolutely, and there definitely are different causes of chronic disorganization. It's not just people who are incredibly messy or lazy, which sometimes is a common misunderstanding. A lot of times it's people who have learning disabilities or challenges. It can be people with physical disabilities, people recovering from traumatic brain injuries, depression, anxiety. There are a lot of different causes of why somebody could be chronically disorganized. So it's not something to delve into lightly if you're going to become involved in helping somebody create a better for themselves.
For anybody, depending on what level of disorganization you're in, it can be stressful. It can stress you out. Just the thought of it sometimes is daunting, and it's like, you know what, I'm just going to go on vacation. Like, right, I'm not going to deal with this right now.
Absolutely.
Overcoming the stress of getting organized.
Well, the first thing to do is to break things down into manageable projects. So, for example, instead of saying, I need to do this entire garage this weekend, say, I'm going to tackle this shelf. I'm going to do this shelving unit, or I'll take care of this wall. So break it down so that something's not so daunting. Perhaps bringing somebody in to help you, an extra set of hands or an extra set of eyes to figure out what you've got and where you want to keep it, are also great ways to kind of ease the process along.
This is, I mean, an expanding, growing industry. When you look at companies like the Container Store, where it's just all about different ways to store things and put things away. I mean, using these kind of resources to give you ideas is also very helpful.
Definitely. There are certainly great products out there that are really advantageous for some people. Personally, I find that a lot of people who are trying to get organized or who have been trying to get organized for a long time often have products in their home already that they just need to maybe appropriate to use in a different spot or use to hold a different product, something like that. But more often than not, there are products out there that are going to make some type of sense for that system that you're working on to help make it easier for you.
Things, and actually, you know, the part of doing this show, the reason we do this show is to provide people with information and resources where, you know, they can get further help. Aside from Traeger.com, just a general resource for more information about what we've been talking about today.
Well, if somebody feels that they may be borderline or actually think that they are chronically disorganized and they're looking for some guidance, Judith Kohlberg has a great book out there. She's the founder of the NSGCD, and it's kind of the essential guidebook for anyone who's working with someone who's chronically disorganized or who is chronically disorganized themselves.
Fantastic. Molly and Amy, so much. Hopefully I can, after this program, I can go to my desk and I'm just going to sweep it all into a bin. I'm just done. I'm going to start from scratch and going totally minimalist. We'll see you next week on 26 North Halsted.